Have you ever been in one of those situations where you think you're being very clear with your team, but then you find out later that everyone was on a completely different page, which has led to missed deadlines and work being off track, or my favorite, or least favorite, the silence of nothing getting done because nobody really knew what they were supposed to do. Now, here's the truth. Vague goals and fuzzy expectations are the silent killers of performance. In fact, a Gallup study found that only 50% of employees strongly agree that they know what's expected of them at work. That means half your team could be flying blind, and you might not even realize it. But as a manager, it is your job to ensure that everyone knows what success looks like and what their role is in contributing to that success. Welcome to The Modern Manager. I am Mamie Canfor-Stewart, and every week I share strategies and tips to help you be a rockstar manager with a thriving team. Now, by the end of today's lesson, you will have a blueprint for setting crystal clear goals and expectations, the kind that align your team, build accountability, and drive serious results. So let's dive in. Now, let's get real for a minute. Ambiguity is the enemy of performance. When your team is not clear on what success looks like, they're going to make up their own assumptions. We all do it. We fill in the gaps. And that's where mistakes happen, priorities clash, and momentum stalls. The clarity that you provide is the foundation for everything, for productivity, for trust, for engagement, for hitting those results. I have worked with plenty of managers who think that they need to micromanage their people when in fact, they simply aren't setting clear enough expectations from the start. So of course, they need to jump in continually and insert themselves in the work because the people aren't doing what they think they should be doing because you didn't tell them what they need to do. They don't have the full picture. Your role as a manager is to rid your team of that ambiguity before it derails everyone and requires you to be overly in the weeds. So here is a simple 3-part framework to set expectations that stick. First, define the what and the why. Every goal needs 2 things. What are we trying to achieve? And why does it matter? Why does it matter to our team? Why does it matter to other stakeholders? Why does it matter to the organization? When your team understands the purpose behind their work, they are way more likely to stay aligned and engaged and motivated. And they're actually more capable of making decisions aligned with that bigger why, not just the what. And let me show you what this looks like in reality. Let's imagine that your company has set a goal. Increase employee participation in professional development programs by 30%. And you have been handed this goal, and you now need to decide what to do about it. And let's say you have 2 options you come up with. Option A is to introduce a points-based reward system where employees earn small perks like a gift card or extra break time for every training that they complete. In this case, the focus is making participation fun and offering some sort of extrinsic motivators to get people to sign up and follow through. Now, option B is to schedule a discussion with your team about career growth and help each employee identify how specific training programs align with their professional and personal career goals. In this case, the focus would be on connecting professional development opportunities to long-term personal and professional growth and aspirations. If all you know is that you need to boost participation by 30%, you might think that option A is great because it's quick, it's a tactile way to raise participation numbers, it'll hit that target, it's nice and fun, and who doesn't like a perk? And more people are just going to sign up and complete the activities, and you don't have to do all that much. But if you also know that the reason behind the goal, that the company is seeing a lot of turnover, and the exit interviews are showing that employees feel stagnant and not able to continue their career advancement, you might realize that it's not just about participation. The real goal, the underlying factor, is that meaningful engagement, development, and retention. Now, option B becomes a better decision because by helping your employees see why development matters to their own success and identify which types of professional development programs align with their career aspirations, you're able to build genuine motivation and long-term commitment, which addresses that deeper problem of disengagement and turnover. So by giving people both the what and the why, you are helping them see the bigger picture so that they can make better decisions and take more aligned actions. Now, the second thing to do is to make sure that you have clarified roles and responsibilities. You have to be explicit about ownership. It is so frustrating to not know who is doing what, who has authority to make what decisions, whose input should be considered, who should be part of which meetings. And when multiple people are involved, it can be a hot mess. I know because I have seen it firsthand. You are trying to collaborate, but the roles and responsibilities were never assigned, and people are just really confused and frustrated. And this is where tools like a RACI model comes in. Simply identifying who is responsible, who is accountable, who is consulted, and who is informed. And this kind of tool, at the very least, can bring a basic level of clarity. If creating a full-fledged work plan feels like way too much work, that is fine. Instead of getting into the task level of responsibilities, think about the various buckets of activity, the decisions that need to get made, the work streams that are going to unfold. Even this type of higher level look at roles and responsibilities using a RACI will still allow everyone to be most effective within their lane and ensure accountability across the board. Lastly, you have to establish what success looks like. It might be crystal clear in your mind, but if you don't spell out what good looks like, you are setting up your team for failure. Whether it is a report, a product launch, a marketing campaign, your team needs to know the specific criteria for success. Never assume your version of done is the same as theirs, or what you think is important is obvious to everyone else. One reliable approach is to write OKRs, or as I like to call them, OKRMs. And here's how it works. You start with the objective, what you want to achieve. Then you go to key results, how you'll measure success. These are the specific quantitative outcomes, the true goals that track your progress towards the objective. And then lastly, I like to add measures or metrics that matter. These are the criteria that must be met in order for the goal to be considered successful or done. So let me give you an example. Let's start with the objective, strengthen customer relationships to increase loyalty. That's what we're trying to do at the end of the day. And maybe we have a couple of different key results. One could be achieve a net promoter score of 75 or higher by the end of Q4, or launch a customer advisory board by the end of Q2, or reduce average support ticket response time from 12 hours to 4 hours. You could have multiple goals that roll up, or multiple key results that roll up to the bigger objective. Now, notice how the objective gives direction while the key results provide the concrete goals. But to me, that's not enough. That's why I add the measures or metrics that matter. So for example, let's take the key result of reduce average support ticket response time from 12 hours to 4 hours. Let's say that's the goal you're working towards. You might want to include some things like, this will only be successful if we keep the same ticketing system. We cannot add a new technology. We don't want to spend the money, and we don't want to spend the time transitioning to a new system that promises better features, but ultimately may not deliver. So that is a key measure of success. We might have another criteria that says the internal ticket escalation rate remains steady, meaning we shouldn't be sending more issues up the chain, more tickets up the chain. Otherwise, it could mean that while people are responding more quickly, they're not responding more thoughtfully. And instead, they're just passing along issues that if they had taken the time, they could have addressed on their own. And lastly, we could have a third criteria or measure that says the ticket resolution time should remain steady, meaning it shouldn't take longer to resolve an issue. Otherwise, it might mean that the initial response is not as productive as it would have been if they had taken longer, and people might be rushing their initial response time. This is the power of OKRMs. They keep everyone laser focused. And because the key results are specific and the measures are nuanced, you increase the likelihood that what you're aiming for is actually what will be accomplished. Now, here's the thing about setting goals and expectations. At the end of the day, you cannot treat it as a one and done process. You and your team need to be reminded of the goals, the measures, the roles, and so on regularly, because it is way too easy to forget. And then we all just end up working from partial information and making assumptions. So start every project-related meeting by reviewing your goals together. Put them at the top of your agenda. Schedule quick check-ins specifically to review your goals, review the progress, review the measures, make sure everything's being attended to, make sure people are staying in their roles properly, and keep it front and center. Because the more often you see it, the more likely everyone will stay clear about what they need to do to get the work done. If this quick lesson has clarified for you what you can do to help set better goals and communicate them more clearly to your team, make sure you hit that subscribe button and pass on the love by sharing this with another team member or manager or leader in your network. And remember, clarity is not a bonus. It is your leadership responsibility.